Today I'm going to refresh one of my box stock cars. This is Shiva. This is the Gunbluster light blue special. And as you see here, it's got a polycarbonate shell, it's got a light blue chassis, it's got white wheels, it has light blue tires to match the chassis. Pretty darn cool. And it is a light car. It is only 78 grams, so it is wicked fast. Yes, folks, this has been a winner for me for a long, long time. And yeah, recently it's gotten a little long in the tooth, and I was wondering why the speed of it went down from the usual 24 kilometers per hour down to about 19 or 20, and it's like, wait a second. And still, I was still able to be competitive with a car that had 19 to 20 kilometers per hour speed. That was pretty strange right there, but yeah, still, it's a light car. So even if it's slower, it's still going to be faster than a lot of cars. And that's because of the lightness of the car. And also the fact that it's got an FMA chassis. So that helps in a lot of tracks that have jumps, inclines, things like that. So here we have something that, for whatever reason, it's a little slower than it used to be. So one of the things to check is the wheels, right, and how they spin. So I noticed that one of the things about this car was the fact that the wheels always came off very easily. And so I would just kind of slip them back onto the shaft, and it wouldn't matter. Sometimes it would come off this side, sometimes the other wheel would come off that side. The wheels just like to fall off the shaft for whatever reason. It's because the holes in the wheels, they're just too big, they're just too loose now, so they'll just slip right off of the shaft easily. So there are various methods to try to get the shaft and the wheel to stay put. And one of them is to take a file, a metal file, and kind of sand off the ends, the very ends of, not this end, but sand off like about 1/4 of an inch inward on each side, and then you push the wheels on, and the friction caused by the grittiness of the ends will keep the wheel on. So that's one method. Another method is to use these kinds of pliers right here, cutting pliers, and you basically take the ends of this and you kind of press real hard onto this as you rotate this shaft so that you get like at least a few cuts in there, a few nicks using this cutting pliers. So then when you push the wheels on, the friction that's caused by those nicks against the inside part of the wheels, that keeps the wheels on. So that's another method. Very, very cool. So what I did was I replaced the shaft because I noticed that I couldn't remove the shaft from the car. So that was like a big problem. Okay, so I removed the wheel, which popped off easily, and then the other wheel, I tried to pull the wheel out, and then I ended up pulling the other wheel off, and then the shaft was stuck in there, so it was stuck in there pretty hard. Like, I couldn't remove it easily. So when that happens, that means your shaft is likely bent. So yeah, I basically took needle nose pliers, and I had to like kind of yank it out of this thing. It was like yanking out a tooth. It was like, yeah! So yeah, I was able to remove the shaft, and then I tried using the shaft checker tool, and it turns out that, yeah, it was a totally bent shaft. So I had a spare steel shaft available, and this one like kind of zipped through the wheel shaft checker, and I used the shaft for that. And I replaced the shaft. And I used the method of basically nicking the ends of the shaft to keep the wheels on. And so this is the result of this right here. So yeah, always use a wheel press. So wheel presses are your friend. You want to make sure that the wheels are in parallel. Very, very cool. So once I replaced the shaft and did other things, then the speed of the car went from the 19 kilometers per hour to 24 kilometers per hour. That's the original speed that I had for this car. 24 kilometers per hour is like one of my slower fast cars. Like typically I can get them to be 26 to 27 kilometers per hour with not much problems. And then if I want a really fast car, then I keep working at it until I get to 28, then 29. But typically like 24 is the lowest speed of the fast cars for me. So yeah, very, very cool. So what are some other things that I changed besides the shaft? There's lots of other things. So I also replaced the palms. Now take a look at the picture right here of what the original palms look like. And so I magnified the picture, and you will see that the holes on the insides of the palms are not completely round. In fact, they look like they kind of took on the shape of the shaft itself. Now, these shafts, they are not round from the side. They're actually hexagonal shaped. So if you take a look at the picture, you'll see that the picture on the left of the palm, it looks like, for whatever reason, it's kind of like flattened on the lower right side. So my thinking is that this car took a lot of harsh landings when it did jumps, and it probably like caused the look of the palms right there to be like that. So palms should be completely round on the inside. The hole should be completely round. But there you see it's like got a dent. Not only on the left one, but if you look closely in the right one, there's also the same kinds of dents. They're like not as noticeable, but if you look closely, you'll notice them. Yeah, so it's just very, very terrible. So what I did was, if you look at the next picture, I replaced the blue palms with purple palms because that's the color. That's the closest color I had, unfortunately. I could have used white palms, maybe to match this white wheel right here. But yeah, I had purple palms available, so I used purple palms. And so yeah, they are just palms, right? All these things, these palms are made of this like super slippery plastic. And so yeah, you should be able to replace them with any color palms you want. So I replaced the palms, and that helped with the speed. And I also looked at the cowl and I said, let's tighten all the screws on the cowl, the two screws here. Let's tighten all the screws on the rollers, these roller screws here, 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 and here. Let's tighten the screw on the gear cover. So I tightened that screw as well. Let's tighten the screw on, there's two screws on here, the brake. So yeah, and also here on the rear roller stay. So you want to make sure that everything's tight. So I noticed that when I was tightening these things up, there were a couple of things that were in fact loose. So the roller right here, this one on the right side, for whatever reason, it was loose. It got loose over time. So I tightened it up, and luckily it was not stripped. The biggest issue with a lot of these chassis is the fact that the screws can be stripped, and then you have this infinite twisty syndrome. So yeah, no matter how much you twist with your screwdriver, it feels like there's no end to the twisting. And when that happens, that means there's a crack somewhere inside the hole on the chassis. It's just not good. And then you have to basically fill that hole with a little bit of super glue and then drive the screw in place and hope that it stays put. So sometimes you can repair a screw hole that way, but sometimes you cannot, and then you have to throw out the chassis and find a new car kit, unfortunately. While replacing palms might be okay, replacing an entire chassis with a different colored chassis is not okay, so try to find the same color chassis for your car kit. I noticed when I was trying to tighten this screw here that the whole thing just came off. So these polycarbonate cowls are not super strong, especially on the parts where you are affixing screws into the cowl. So the whole thing just kind of came out, and you'll see in the picture there's a big gaping hole right there. So when I had this front lip column piece right here, when I just had it right in front of me, I like untwisted the screw out, and there was the little plastic piece that was part of this cowl. And then I was like, uh-oh, what am I going to do? So what I did was I took some Tamiya double-sided tape, and also this is part of the polycarbonate cowl right here. It's like the excess plastic stuff. And I cut it into this long strip, and I cut it into little squares like this. And I affixed double-sided tape on one side, pressed it in place here. I also did the same on the other side, pressed it in place. Then I drilled a hole smack in the center of where these two affixed parts were. So then I basically screwed on this front lip column, and it worked out well. Yeah, it's staying put here. However, when I put this back in place here, I noticed that the cowl was hitting the wheel. Now, I had to basically trim around so that the wheel could actually clear the wheel well, because for whatever reason, now it's like tipped downward. So sometimes you can adjust the tilt of the cowl by basically unscrewing both screws, and then you can kind of reposition things and try to screw this back in so that everything's level, but it wasn't becoming level for me for whatever reason. So I basically just needed to just shave off a little bit more on this side so that the wheel would not touch the wheel well right there. So there's a little space right there, whereas before it was like pressed up against it and the wheels would not turn. So yeah, I had to do that and clear the wheel well a little bit more. Then I also checked for roller spin. So roller spin is basically this. I'm just spinning the rollers and making sure that the rollers spin freely. And yeah, if they do not, then you want to oil the roller screws, and you want to try to get into that crevice between where the roller screw is and where the roller is. So it's a little gap right there, and you want to put a little tiny drop of oil. So my oil right here, which is the Ganapati oil, I sell that. So if you are in the US and you are interested in this, please drop me a note, and yeah, we'll talk about how to obtain this. Very, very cool. So another thing is lubricating the palms and rollers, which I just talked about using oil, and also the palms. So you want to try to get that little crevice right there between the wheel and the palm, and you want to put a little drop of lubricating oil right there as well. And also cleaning the tires with an alcohol wipe. So you put batteries in here, and then you turn it on, and then you just let this thing spin. You let the wheel spin, the tires spin, and you take your alcohol pad, like one of these, for example, and you just gently press it against the tires to kind of like clean the surface of the tire. Now, as you see here, even though I did the alcohol wipe on here, you still see that there's like stuff on the tires. Like you can clearly see that it's not completely a solid blue anymore. So don't worry so much about that residue. It's not residue, it's just like tire scuff. Like this is just like stuff that happens when you're racing a lot and you're running this on a track. And so there's really not an easy way of getting rid of this stuff right here. I mean, you can use a more powerful cleaner, but then you might affect the grip of the tires. So you have to be very careful with that. I think just allowing your tires to be like wiped off slightly with the alcohol wipe, just by gently pressing on each one when this is spinning, that's enough to clean the tires, because you don't want to ruin the surface of each one. And if you like affect the tires too much, then that's a no-no, right? Because that's against the box stock rules. So you do not want to affect the rubberiness of the tires, like how slick the tires are versus how super hard they are. Like you don't want to affect the squishiness of the tires using whatever cleaning method you're using. So yes, these are some of the methods that I used to refresh my car. You can add to these methods. These are not all of the methods. These are just the methods that I had to do to refresh my car. So your car may have different things that you need to do to refresh it. So you might need to replace the box stock motor with a different box stock motor, especially if it burned out, for example, or it's really running slow, then you might have to re-break it in. So the re-break-in process, that's very similar to the break-in process, but you have to be extra super careful because your motor has been used already. So you have to be very delicate on it. You have to clean the insides of it first before you attempt to do another re-break-in process. So yeah, you have to be very, very careful. Use kid gloves when you're re-breaking in a motor. If you don't have confidence in a motor, just step it aside, get a new motor, and just use that. Just break in a new motor and then put it in your car. Failing all of that, if all that doesn't make your car the speed that it was before, then you might have to buy a new kit, because there's something about your car, whatever it is, that might not be behaving the right way. And you know what? That's okay. That's just life. That's just the way the ball bounces. Like sometimes you just have to buy a new car kit. You just can't use the one that you already have because some things have worn out on it a little too much. So everybody, if you like this video, please slam the like button, subscribe to my channel. You'll see more videos just like this one. Until next time, everybody, see you, bye, and happy racing.